Happy Thursday, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome. Come on in. I'm excited about tonight's conversation. This is not a reality check. This is a reality exclusive on the forensics of cheating. I'm excited to welcome tonight's guests because our first two guests actually authored this book. And if you guys have watched Reality Check, you know that Terry Deron, relationship expert, Terry Deron has been a constant. I consider him a friend. He comes on and gives me the guy's point of view. And so when I found out that he had this book called The Forensics of Cheating, because most of the topics that we deal with in relationships, cheating is usually in there somewhere. You know, we don't always talk about it. We've done a lot of conversations about Ready to Love and all this stuff. And cheating is usually somewhere in the conversation, if not the main focus of the breakdown. So, you know, I want to give everybody a moment to come on in, but I'm going to go ahead and bring authors of Forensics of Cheating, in the Mindset of the Unfaithful. I'm going to go ahead and bring relationship expert Terry Deron and conversation strategist Dr. Andre Blaylock into the conversation. Good evening, gentlemen.
What's going on?
Hey, how you doing?
Terry,
Thanks for having us.
Right? Yeah, we've been trying to make it happen. So I appreciate you putting it together.
Absolutely. Well, welcome, Dr. Blaylock. This is my first time meeting you. But I'm interested to hear your perspective. You guys partnered up on this book, and what was the motivation for partnering up on this type of book? I know Terry writes about relationships all the time, but what was your motivation for partnering up on a book talking about basically allowing us to kind of get into the mindset of a cheater?
Terry, you want to take this, or you want me to?
No, I'll let you kick it off and explain how it came together.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I've been following Terry and vice versa for like the last couple of years, and I look at some of the stuff that he says, and anybody who knows Terry knows that he shoots it straight with no chaser. And so when we start talking like offline, it's kind of like smooth with the roughness. It's like, okay, well, Terry's going to say it one way, and I can kind of come behind him with like maybe some type of clinical sounding type of thing. So it just works out well. We start talking about cheating and all the reasons behind cheating. So we just decided to kind of come together, his style and my style, and see if we could reach different audiences.
Well, I appreciate that. Before we get too deep into this conversation, we have to welcome one of our panelists from Ready to Love. I'm sure the ladies will recognize that tall, dark, and handsome guy over was my left-hand side. AJ, welcome to the Forensics of Cheating.
Welcome.
Now, before we get started, I wanted to do this panel with all men because, like I said, I feel like sometimes men don't get a chance to share without women interjecting. So I'm going to try to just ask questions and let you guys talk. But I wanted to get the experts, and I also wanted to have, just guys, just regular men that, the women would enjoy hearing their perspective. So AJ, I appreciate you joining. I do want to give everybody a disclaimer. Anything you share here does not mean that this is how you feel now. I don't want you guys to feel like you can't be honest about how you have felt in the past, because you're going to be women. We are not judging them on what they're saying. We are appreciating the fact that they're sharing perspectives that they have and that other men that they know may have had. So I just want to say that I don't want you guys to think that you can't say something because you're going to be judged on that right now. So this is just a conversation that's free, no judgment. And I'm sure the ladies will in the comments will adhere to that, because they're asking, are you guys expert cheaters? Is that why?
But I don't even have the comments turned on yet. Let me turn the comments on so I can see.
Don't turn the comments on, AJ. Don't turn the comments on. That'll put us in a bad place. All right. But no, I appreciate you guys talking, because I think a lot of times we don't get to hear men talk freely without us interjecting. So what I did is I just, before we even get into this, cheating is such a big part of a relationship breakdown, right? I pulled some headlines, and I just wanted to kind of flash these across the screen, because this is what we see going on in everyday relationships. Now, these are celebrity relationships, but celebrity relationships a lot of times mirror and reflect what's going on in real life. So I'm just going to go through. We have Kevin Hart admitted to cheating on his pregnant wife.
On her birthday.
On her. Most importantly, while she cheated. It's just unbelievable.
I'm just saying.
Unbelievable. On reality star pastor John Gray apologizes to his wife for cheating again.
In the strip club.
That was the second huge scandal Pastor Gray had. Now, this is going to, flip things a little bit. Kris Jenner had an affair during her marriage to Robert Kardashian. So that's a female. I don't want to make sure that we point out that men aren't the only ones that cheat.
Yeah, it's only about a 4% difference, I think.
Yes, it's almost what?
Tiger Woods had one of the most explosive divorces in celebrity history. We know he had, I believe it was 11 women at one time that he was.
He had a team.
11 to 13, something around
Yeah,
there.
it was a big number there. Okay, and then Nick Young had his personal life got really embarrassed when his broadcast all over social media with a video of him describing cheating on Izzy.
He got ousted.
Yeah,
man, that we felt some kind of way about the way that went down, man.
Oh man, he got ousted.
He got ousted, and then Jay-Z and Beyonce.
We still don't know what happened. Like, Jay-Z didn't cheat at all. What did you talk about? They just had agreement in the elevator.
Jay-Z acknowledged through his music his infidelities and talked a little bit about it to promote his music. Arnold Schwarzenegger slept with the nanny.
I forgot about that.
Marriage to Maria Shriver. Oh, we don't want to forget. And then last but not least, we see that the power couple, J-Lo and A-Rod, broke down because A-Rod was accused of cheating rumors, and there was supposed to be a lady on the Housewives he was cheating with. So I just want to make sure that we understand, as we're going into this, we're constantly bombarded with this. It's an issue. Cheating is an issue.
It's a pass though.
Well, we all
still feel a way about that. We seen Will's tears. He was at the red table there trying to have a conversation.
Yeah,
I think you're right. In AJ's defense, we do want to say we also bring in Jada as the female that did
most recent.
We don't know that she was the only person that cheated in her marriage. What we do know is that she acknowledged it, and Will sat there and looked sympathetic. But we don't. We have no proof. We cannot confirm or deny that he has ever stepped out of his marriage. But let's talk about this, because you guys mentioned we're talking about the difference between females and males. So, Feelings on Monogamy is the first chapter of the forensics of a cheater. Feelings on monogamy. Are men predisposed to cheat more? Is that in a man's nature more so than it's in a woman's nature to cheat? I'm going to go ahead and start with Terry, and then we'll go to Dr. Blaylock and then to AJ.
I think I don't know how much of an impact it is for women. But I think for men, the way that I view stuff like that, I view it as something that you have to be taught. So the desire to sleep with multiple women or fantasize about multiple women is something that I can remember doing as early as 4 and 5 years old. Kindergarten. So to me, the desire to hunch on women and kiss cute girls and get the attention of the women that you're attracted to is something that I feel is just innate and put into guys. And so I think it takes a lot of conscious effort when a man decides to get in a relationship and attempts to commit to one woman. And I think a lot of women don't put the proper context on it. So it makes it even more difficult for a man to do that, even if he has the right intention and starts off doing right.
Okay. Dr. Blaylock.
Well, a big problem is just definitions. Like monogamy used to mean one person for life. Now it means one person at a time. You hear people say, I'm monogamous in all of my relationships. It's like, you can't be monogamous in all your relationships, right? So the problem with monogamy historically is it says that you went through the process of elimination. You've arrived at me and I'm the perfect choice. And that's going to be your choice for the rest of your life. So whenever cheating hits, it destroys that entire image. Now it's kind of like men don't operate in the realm of fairness. We operate in winning and losing. And it's like, when I get you, I win. I win. I shut everybody else down. When somebody else comes in and they can have sex with you or whatever, then all of a sudden that illusion is just destroyed, right? So a lot of times men don't handle it differently. But when it comes to monogamy, I mean, it's constantly changing. Like, okay, if you like a post on social media, or if you're a part of a site that your partner is a part of, there's no definition right now. So we can cheat in so many ways. So monogamy, right? Seriously. So it's kind of like, okay, I'm monogamous with you sexually, but I can't have any more friends. If I like other friends, that's a form of cheating to a lot of people. So it's kind of like the definition just needs to be redefined and updated.
It's interesting because I'm looking at AJ and I'm thinking the interesting thing about the show, and we know that AJ was one of the cast members on Ready to Love. There is not a clear definition, because I think when I was coming up, monogamy was pertaining to marriage. Then it becomes girlfriend and boyfriend. But at this point, sometimes even we saw on the show, women would get upset if a guy was talking to another woman while they were dating. So yeah. AJ, in your opinion, what does it mean to be faithful? Like, does that happen after you are in a committed relationship that you're supposed to be faithful? Does that happen after marriage? What does being faithful mean to you? How do you define that?
Man, I'm gonna touch both of them if I can. So being faithful is basically the kind of one of the tenets as a man, right? You know, being faithful to your word. Like, whatever a man is doing, he has to profess, whether it's be him committing himself to a woman, him committing himself to a job, him committing himself to whatever. And it's always been where a man is going to have to work to get whatever it is that he wants. So him being faithful to that is him saying, hey, this is what I'm willing to do and what it is that I'm wanting to receive back. And a lot of times that conversation isn't happening. So if the conversation doesn't happen, how can you be faithful to something that you didn't declare, right? People assume what's going on. But to get as far as like the monogamy piece, right? I think that in our social construct as men, at least, there's always been a level of hierarchy that men are trying to seek and achieve, and that it goes way farther than just finances and resources, right? Because the leveling playing field, the chip that, you know, and this happened to me before, it could be the richest man in the room and you could be on par or even above that man if you had the best looking woman in the room, right? So how do you necessarily equate the two? It's, you know, James has the best looking woman or James has the most women, you know, like that qualifies as something that you want to do. And you look at our culture and music and just Black culture in general, it's either I have the baddest chick in the game or I have the most.
It's equated with success.
Exactly.
That equates to success in America for men. So
even the dream said it, like, and it was the most harshest thing that I've ever heard, but it was really true. And it was talked about a little bit in the book with Tyrese and Reverend Run. The man came home and literally said he looked at his wife and she didn't represent the success that he'd achieved in his life. And I said, wow. Damn. Like, yo, how can you get more harsh than that? But you see it time and time again of a woman being there, being part of a man's life while they're on the come up, and then they split, and then you see a different type of woman when he has money and has status.
It's a whole starter wife thing. And I just gotta say, I'm trying to be quiet as a woman. I cannot, because you guys have to understand how just to think that the way a woman looks, women, we are judged on our outer appearance, and a man's success would be equated to having the prettiest, by the European standards of beauty, woman in the room. That is one of the issues in our culture that has broken, especially Black women, down so much. And that's that is extremely hurtful. And I understand that's a reality. I'm just saying, think about what that does to little girls.
But men have different preferences too. Like a lot of the things that the European standards say is cute, I never liked that stuff. Like, so a lot of women feel some type of way, but it'd be the stuff that guys like me like them. I prefer dark women. Like, so everybody don't like.
We got to speak in general terms when we're talking in a forum like this. So we can acknowledge that when AJ's talking about men saying women don't represent their status, we know what that generally looks like.
Yeah, I can see that.
I just want to point out that is very, that whole idea, and I know it's very instinctive in men. It's very, you got to think, and I don't know who in this room has daughters. I know, Terry, I think you do, right? Yeah. But to think that, women know that not only are you being judged, but if you were to get with a man and he were to become extremely successful, to think, I've heard women with athletes say, oh, I'm not the kind of woman that people think that he should be with. That is just extremely dysfunctional. And I can't even be, that's a whole nother topic. We'll come back for part 2 of that. Let's move on.
But think about it though, in this aspect of, you've never really heard a man being like, a man is never too fine to be with a woman. He could be too big, he could be too successful, he could be too important to be with a woman, but he's never too attractive.
Right.
When you hear it on the opposite end, that woman is too attractive to be with that man. You hear that. And so you have to look at it and say, where a man's status, stature, resources, and wealth is equivalent to the woman's beauty.
It is on the dating market.
We sell everything through sex and appeal of women. Like literally.
Because on the dating market, it's intangibles for the most part that get you the success. Like money can get you a lot of the intangibles. You can fix your teeth, you can get your new hair, you can do all the type of stuff. But essentially, it's how do you look? And that's why a lot of people can get over, or at least make it till they fake it on facades in social media and portraying a certain image. When the success that AJ was talking about, it's not necessarily, I would say, having the best looking woman in the room. You want a woman that other people pay attention to and other men desire. Like when your girl get up to go to the bar, other heads need to turn and notice she went to the bar. They need to notice what she had on. Like that's what guys are like really care about. Like being able to attract the chick that the other dudes were paying attention to. That's where the ego and the swag and the emotional boost that we talk about in the book comes from.
But most of the time, like it's a whole world that women aren't paying attention to. Like men are, as you do that, like you went to the bathroom, it could be 3 guys that come up to them. I just wanted to tell you, your lady looks real nice. I salute to you, player. Like your friends would be like, oh, like who is that you people that haven't seen you in a while. They'll hit you up the next day. Yo, who is that you had with you? That's you? That's your girl? Oh man, I just, congratulations to you. They don't know the status of your relationship. They don't know if you was just, that's the reason why escorts exist. Really, you know what I'm saying? People, that's the reason why the woman to the business dinner, even Barack Obama said it. He said, hey, they didn't like me. They liked her. They looked at her and said, man, if this man is able to have this woman's attention, he's a man that I need to know about. He's a man that I need to, a woman can get you in the room way faster than your skills or your ability can.
We got to definitely have we got to have a part 2. Terry, every month we got that's an entire different conversation, but I think we haven't had that conversation, right? And I think I hear it from the man's perspective, and I really hope, Dr. Blaylock, that at some point men mature past the point of knowing that regardless of if other men want her or not, if she adds value to my life, she has value. There's, I hope that we get to that point. But let's move to the chapter 2, which is a cheater's mindset. So my question with the cheater's mindset, we just saw different celebrity examples. So we saw Tiger Woods that had 11 to 13 mistresses all at one time. And then we also saw Kevin Hart that's, got caught with one woman while his wife was pregnant, supposedly on her birthday, but definitely while she was pregnant. Is there a difference in the man that is cheating with multiple women and the man that gets caught with one woman? Dr. Blaylock, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, it's really not an issue these days. Do people cheat? It's like, what type of cheater are you dealing with? And in the book, I talk about two types of cheaters. The person that gets caught over and over and over again is a narcissistic cheater. That person does not have the remorse required to stop. It's like, okay, well, it's there. I don't feel bad. I kind of feel bad, but not really. I can always replace you. So that's the adage of once a cheater, always a cheater. But then you have a compunction cheater, okay? A compunction cheater is that dude or girl that's been married 30 years. In 30 years, they ain't looked at another booty or nothing, but they're at a party one day, the conversation kicks off, and then they find themselves cheating. That's a lapse of judgment. That person feels remorse. They're going to come forward to their partner and apologize. They're going to own up to it. They're going to seek help and forgiveness. And 31% of couples who have a compunction cheater as a cheater, they go on to build stronger relationships because now a new level of communication has opened up to them, you know. But it really depends on what kind that you're dealing with.
That's interesting. All right, Terry, what's your take on that?
I'd add a third category to that, because I think it'd be the person that is unhappy or unsatisfied, because I think that's overwhelmingly the factor for people that try to be faithful. And from a male perspective, it's you come up and like AJ was mentioning, there's a hierarchy. You either the dudes that's smashing a lot of chicks, or you're the dudes that's wishing you could be smashing a lot of chicks. And whether or not you have that swag and that experience depicts how you handle it in today's day and age. If you're not used to smashing cute chicks, you can go over, you start getting a bag, and you gonna go crazy with what's gonna be thrown at you. Whereas somebody that been smashing chicks since he was in high school, been smashing the cutest chicks, he's going to be able to handle it a lot different. He's not going to respond to the fake booties and the plastic bodies the way the dude that has never had it would. So those are the things that people don't really talk about when it comes to cheating, because the dude that ain't never wasn't smashing cheerleaders and wasn't smashing the chicks on a dance team, if he become popping on social media and get a Instagram thought in his DMs, how's he gonna pass that up?
Christal, your face is priceless.
I'm trying. I'm trying.
Priceless.
I'm trying, AJ. I am so trying. What's your guys? I am trying. AJ, what's your take on that? Is there a difference between the guy that has a lot that's just cheating everywhere, or the guy that actually has a woman, loves her, and gets caught up 3 or 4 years into the relationship with one other person?
No, I think that he shedded some light to me. You know, I didn't really I just looked at a lot of the relationships that I saw, and none of them presented a model to me that I would desire. That's basically it, right? And so very few men that had relationships that I would have wanted, or even with women that I felt like were attractive, right? Because what you learn is it doesn't matter. Like, men cheat on whomever, you know, it could be a supermodel, it could be the baddest chick in the land, it could be whoever. Cheating is still a possibility. And so when you look at it from that aspect, you have to wonder why that's the case. So Dr. Blaylock kind of giving you those two aspects of it. Okay, I could get that. I can understand that, and I could see it. But I also understand Terry, which is kind of more so where I always looked at it at, because usually in relationships, you know, early on, we do a really great job, both men and women, telling each other about the things that we enjoy, the things that we like about each other. But after you settle into the relationship, a lot of times the things that you're talking to your partner about are things that they need to improve on. You know what I'm saying? And as a guy that's doing everything that you should be doing in a relationship, it's hard to put that level of work in and not get that level of acknowledgement that you feel back. So I think that a lot of cheating doesn't even start from the need or the want of sex, but the lack of intimacy in a relationship that might be possible. And then sex is kind of a thing that happens after that for men and women. So I think, and especially so if you want to talk about the cheating, I think the cheating starts on an emotional level. And for the person that's cheating with one woman, the guy that's cheating with one woman, for me, I would look at that as way more significant as the guy that's cheating with a bunch of women. For me, that guy probably just shouldn't have gotten into a relationship. You know what I'm saying? Or probably shouldn't have been in the space of where they wanted to dedicate their life to someone in that way, because they just didn't want to in the first place, because they had a bunch of women. That didn't come out of nowhere. That usually was the case all throughout the courting period, up until the wedding, after the marriage. It was something that was there versus someone having a companion later on in the relationship. So, but no, it was interesting. I wish I had an opportunity to read that book though before.
Well, everybody can get the book. The book is out now. We'll definitely make sure that we have the information. Let Terry and Dr. Blaylock share the information. If you guys are just joining, this is a reality check exclusive. Is titled The Forensics of Cheating. And we are here with relationship expert Terry Deron, who's a friend to the show, Dr. and Andre Blaylock, who is a conversation strategist, and our Ready to Love bachelor, who is holding it down by himself, AJ Johnson. We're not sure where David is, but it's okay. We're going to continue with the conversation.
I wanted to touch something that I think that ties into what AJ was just talking about. He mentioned the guy that's cheating with one woman, how that would be perceived to be more significant. And I think that's based off of this magical myth that we place on faithfulness. Like whenever someone is believed to be faithful, they get all this praise and adoration or whatnot. It's one of the reasons that I think women have, their dating decisions are kind of out of whack, because it's based off of something that can't be proven or verified. And so a person being faithful, that doesn't mean that they're a better person or they're a better husband or a better boyfriend, etc. You could be the only person interested in sleeping with him. Like a dude only been able to sleep with one woman, that might be all he can do. Like that's not always, it's not always this magic, elixir like people treat it. And that's part of the issue.
I have never met a man, not ever, that could only sleep with one woman. And in fact, if one woman will sleep with him, other women will then say, oh, well, if she's sleeping with him, there must be something good about him, so maybe I should sleep with him too. So I'm just saying, the idea of, if a man is faithful to a woman, that doesn't mean that he's a good person. It may mean that there's nothing else that he can do. That's hard to swallow, because even the brokest, most unattractive idiot man can still get an opportunity to have sex with a woman. I don't know how. We are giving away too much charity, kitty cat. Women, we need to stop. But the point is, I don't think there's any such thing as a man that can't cheat. There may be men that have more options. Definitely. Yeah, Tyler Woods has more options. Definitely Kevin Hart has more options. But there's some guy working at FedEx part-time, can't pay his bills, that can still cheat. I've seen it.
So Christal, though, so the thing that you have to really acknowledge, though, is, and women may not want to hear it, men don't cheat to replace.
Okay. Men
cheat to supplement. In a lot of instances, in a lot of cases, it's so much stuff that's happening in that. So on one space, you have men that have sexual desires that, for whatever reason, that they feel are taboo, that they shouldn't be doing with their wife. That's a whole separate thing there. So then you have men that go out and they're doing things in the sexual way that are providing a desire of theirs that they're ashamed of for whatever reason. Then you have guys that are cheating because that's what they saw, that's what they were taught, and that's what they just think of a guy is. Either, again, going back to however many women that I have, or how many conquests I have, or how attractive is this woman to me. But the thing that a woman can hold as any level of solace in this situation is that if a man desires you and wants to be in a relationship with you, you can almost bet your weight and go that you are the best woman that man has encountered, right? And so a lot of times the man doesn't want to interrupt that, and so they pick a woman that they feel like doesn't hold a candle to the woman that they actually have. They cheat in such a way where the woman doesn't have the opportunity to replace the woman that he actually has. Wow. Which is the reason why you hear so much remorse and so much discard. Like, a man is willing to discard the woman that he's cheating with when he gets caught, because she was never there to replace the woman that he was with.
It was just sex. They're really telling the truth when they say stuff like that. Like, man, it was just sex. I don't love her. Like, men don't, we all know that men don't associate sex with love. Men have sex to have pleasure, to give and receive pleasure. So in a lot of instances, like he said, it's not because you want her to be your woman. That's why a guy that has a very, prestigious wife could cheat with a thought. You know what I mean? Because it's just about temporary enjoyment at the moment that you hope that you can keep a secret.
Well, that's it. That's AJ's right on target, because the next chapter was cheating versus breaking up. And a lot of women are like, if you're going to cheat on me, why wouldn't you just break up with me? But I guess that answered the question, because I never was trying to leave. I was just trying to, I guess, add on to my plate. Dr. Blaylock, talk to us about the cheating versus the breaking up. Are there times when a man does cheat because he wants out of the relationship, or is that most of the time he's just adding to his palate?
I wish there was just a simple one answer covers all, but I mean, basically men and women cheat for basically the same reason. It's like great sex. It's like, you would think that women cheat most of the time for emotional reasons, but when I was doing some of the research for the book, I attended sex parties and I talked to a lot of the ladies, and I'm like, why are you here? Are you here because you're not having fun at home? Your husband isn't doing anything? It's like, no, we're here for great sex. No strings attached. He can't last long, or he doesn't whatever, but from a male's perspective, it's not necessarily like we're trying to replace you. Like AJ said, it's like somebody is offering something that maybe I'm not getting at home because maybe it's taboo.
But in those instances where you're at a party, is that cheating? Because you made it sound like the guy was with her.
No, what I'm saying is the women at the parties, like, no, these were like just swinging parties, and some of the men were in attendance and some were not. Because, in poly relationships, that's different. In open relationships, men or women can go to these parties because they can have sex with whomever they want to. So at these parties, they weren't necessarily. Is it cheating? Well, I mean, I guess it depends on the person. Like I said, there's no universally established definition for cheating. It used to be if I stick my penis in another woman outside of my wife, not girlfriend, I was cheating. But now it's like you have emotional cheating. You have all these kind of things that women are like, no, well, I would rather you screw her than give her your time, attention, and affection. You know what I mean? So it's like, because women
That's
take
BS.
it, I mean, it's just kind of like just the way we process it. So is it cheating at a sex party if you're in an open relationship? I don't know. But they were there for the same reason, which is unattached, no strings attached, great sex. And if it's a man, he doesn't necessarily, like Christal, I might be in a loving relationship with you and I don't want to lose you. But men, because of the way our minds or our brains are set up like little boxes and compartments, I might have been in the big booty box when that chick walked by. I'm not thinking about losing you and the repercussions of getting cheating, because most cheaters do not get caught. If you can hit it and quit it, you won't get caught. You can take it to the grave. It's just when you repetitively cheat. Yeah, when you repetitively cheat with the same person, the emotions kick in. That's when you're gonna start getting raggedy. But if you meet somebody and you gonna hit it and quit it, you can hide that bone. You can hide that bone for the rest of your life.
Yeah, or the more strategic.
A lot of men get caught.
That's when you get greedy. Like when you get greedy, when you do it, when you make it a cycle or a habit, is when you get caught. The people that cheat sparingly, a couple times a year when they out of town, the ones that have the discipline to be able to reject most opportunities and only capitalize on very select opportunities, those are the ones that can cheat for long periods of time. and not ever get caught. You know, I speak about my side dude experience all the time. Like, you learn how women actually maneuver, you know, when you decide, dude. It teaches you a lot about how to handle your own relationships and what to avoid. And that's kind of what put me in a position to give relationship advice. Because you know what the real issues are and what the real, you know, because the people confide in a side chick or their side person. And that's the part about cheating that is often overlooked. Having somebody that
yeah, I was going to ask you about that, because when men say, well, she was just sex. Well, if she's just sex, why does she know all my business? Why are you telling her all of our personal information if she's just sex and it doesn't mean anything? Why does she know about your hopes and dreams and my issues? What's that about?
And
the reason why you would go to a therapist.
Right, but at the time, a woman goes to her man's phone and she come to him, who's this? And she's going off. He can't be like, man, she has the best conversations I've had since I was in high school. He can't say that she's my favorite person to talk to. He has to, I don't care nothing about her. It's all about us, because he's in a crisis mode.
That's just a contradiction. I'm just pointing out the contradiction. One minute we're saying that men, it's just sex, we don't care. And the next minute we're saying that the man can't be honest about the fact that he actually really enjoys talking to this other woman. So what are we saying, AJ?
So it was. So you remember when I put a couple different buckets in when we talking about cheating, right? And you know, before Dr. Blaylock kind of gave me some really interesting terms about, like, that I agree with, but gave me some terms about what the cheating was. I always looked at cheating where it was a lack of intimacy. I feel as though women haven't really looked at what their man wants and thinks of as support, because they're so I think women are really great and awesome at supporting each other, right? And they look at that support and think that it extends over to a man, and it doesn't. And a lot of times men want to be not necessarily infallible, but men want to still be the hero, right? They want to be and feel as though that they're the king of their domain. How can you feel that way if you have all of these doubts and fears and things that you're insecure about and all of that, if when you lay them out to your woman, they feel like, you know, again, it's being vulnerable, but if it's used as a weapon ever, a man will never go back. So when you destroy that safe space, again, that's going back to the show. We talked about a safe space a lot. Because it's like, yo, the conversations that I have with you as my woman, you're going to know the intimate details about me. When you look at history and wars and all of that, a lot of wars were lost due to a woman exposing what a man's weakness was.
Uh-huh.
And so a woman has to hold what a man's saying to her like tight. She can't let it go to her girlfriends, to her mom, to whomever else, for them to have an opinion about what the relationship is, because if she does that, then he will seek somebody that's outside his normal social circle and cheat in that way.
One more thing I like to add to it is, like, okay, again, using you as an example, Christal, men spend time where we feel like we're winning.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if I'm not winning with you at home, you know, I'm going to spend time elsewhere. Like, if I talk to you, it's not necessarily going to be this issue. It's going to be, and I didn't take the trash out, and the sink is still, it's going to be a lot of things linked to it, where side chick is just going to listen to what it is I got to say, because a lot of that stuff isn't connected. You know what I mean? So I'm feeling I'm winning over there, so I can open up more. You give me too much criticism and judgment. So that leads to it as well. And that's what I'm like, communication.
Denzel Washington said in Fences, because I can breathe over there. You know what I'm saying? He said, because I can literally breathe. I said, wow.
Now,
yeah, man.
A lot of the times I get all kind of flack because I talk to women about the things that they think and do that disrupt the peace that men are really looking for. Mm-hmm. Because y'all got the looks, y'all know how to attract men, y'all know how to get men to spend time with you and all that, but to make a man want to willingly commit, to make a man choose that, to put a ring on it and all those type of things. A lot of the things that men experience when they're dating is so chaotic that they can only deal with it for a short period of time. And I talk about it all the time. Like, I'm so surprised that I'm married for 17 years because that's what single life was experiencing. And I was like, man, I had lots of different women, but I could only deal with them for a couple of months before they would get on my nerves. And so I never thought I could be with a woman long term because most women are very hostile when you try to correct issues you have with them.
Dr. Blaylock?
No disagreement with me from that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, just to kind of piggyback and add to what he's saying, here's where I think the sweet spot is. When a woman really loves a man and he really likes you. It's like, if I really like you, I'm going to be talking to you about my boys. I'm like, hey, man. But when I fall in love with you, now love becomes a duty and routine, and I have to become the man of your imagination. And that starts to get on my nerves. You know what I mean? Because men don't love the same as women do. We don't. I don't want to sit here and listen how that bitch at work wear the same shirt and I don't want to hear all that. What's the problem? Let me give you the solution and let's go on. You know what I mean? But if I really like you, I want to sit here and listen to you. But when I love you, it's like you talking too much. Go on about your business. You know.
I've heard that. I've heard that.
Marriages only work when you completely appreciate the woman's opinion and she has something worthwhile for you to say. I think moving to Texas has shown me that if you feel like if I was to start a business today, if there's a woman on the side of me, I should already have a place for that woman in my business and have a level of expectation about how I feel she will add to whatever situation that I have going on. Right. So that's what you used your time, your experience, your resources doing. You're saying, hey, I think that this woman would be a good steward to those resources in the time that I've cultivated myself. Yeah, that's why every man says like I wouldn't be able to be me or I wouldn't be able to do whatever it is that I've done without this woman. That's the reason why that happens. Women are natural multipliers. Women are vessels to be able to make like things grow, you know, because the creativity and the natural femininity that women have, like that's what women do. You know what I'm saying? Men do a lot of things that they would have never thought about doing because some woman gave them that idea.
Yeah. Moving on to the next chapter, which is just the thrill of cheating. I have heard guys sometimes say things get boring and, you know, and I even want you guys to explain a little bit more. You know, this is an adult channel, so we can explain a little bit more of, you know, she doesn't do what the other woman wants. It seems like, you know, this is what my girl or my wife will do. This is what I have a thrill over here. So can you guys talk a little bit about the thrill that comes with getting away with it and getting something that's very different than what you have at home? I'll start with.
I'm gonna let the two freaky men talk. Go ahead.
No, I think
the sex party. You need to talk. You need to talk. You the one going to sex parties.
Well, obviously there's the physical component of it, but the thrill really comes from the mental aspect of it. Like even sex is mostly mental. Like the more you can turn a woman on mentally, the higher you're gonna rank on her sexual list or whatnot. And so when you're talking about the thrill of cheating, it's those intangibles that I was talking about earlier. Like when you're in a cheating situation, you have a lot of inside jokes, a lot of private conversations, more private than you probably have with your spouse, like Dr. Blaylock was alluding to. And then just the fact that you are cheating itself creates an aura of excitement. Like knowing that somebody's at work sending you kitty cat pictures when she ain't supposed to. When she was at the, you know, in our meeting thinking about you. Like stuff like that strokes a man's ego in a very big way. And so when we were talking about the thrill of it, it's those, you know, the part that you can't put your hand on, but it'll get a person's heart racing or get them in a mood to miss their side chick or their side dude.
That's a lot. I need to hear where you coming from on this.
sometimes it depends on the approach. Like if you meet somebody and you can tell from the jump that it's just going to be straight sexual, you can put that best foot forward. But you meet someone and she's kind of demure and stuff, and you're going into relationship mode, you're not going to let your freak out immediately because you got to win her over, you know? And then based upon her talking, well, I'm not into this, I'm not into that. You're not going to unleash that. You're really not going to unleash it. Here's one of the biggest things that some people tripped out when they discovered this. If I'm dating you, Chris, the person that I am before I meet you, I'm cool with that person. I like Andre before you.
Mm-hmm.
But then I get with you, the version that I might have to become to stay with you, I start to lose bits and pieces of myself because they say happy wife, happy life. So that can go on so long that I can look in the mirror and not recognize who I'm looking at. Sometimes people cheat to get back to the person they used to be before they got with the person they're currently with.
Yikes.
Because the new chick is going to love the version of Andre that you fell for, but now you try to change a little bit and manipulate. And let's just be honest, everybody going to manipulate their partner to a certain extent. I can be henpecked, but I'm going to be henpecked by the right hand. You know what I mean? But I'm not going to go so far that I can't recognize
you
myself.
You got to be yourself. You got to be. If you have to do that, that means y'all are not really compatible. Like in two people that are actually compatible, you can do your thing, you can be in your space, and it won't create a problem or a conflict with your spouse because there's gonna be some overlap. You gonna have, everybody need my time, they own hobbies, they own things that they like to do. But if you everything that you like to do has to be completely separate than your spouse, then you went wrong somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, and to the same token, if your entire life is structured, or like, I can't imagine people, you share Facebook with your girl and you dress in the same colors. Like, man, you're not happy, bro. You know what I mean? Like, that's not what real happiness look like, or somebody that's actually doing them.
I said any man that's sleeping under flower bed sheets, they if they go home and they sleeping under floral bed sheets of any kind, it's like, yo, bro, you not. It's not happening really for you. You know what I'm saying? But I don't really have a whole lot to add because I haven't had many long-term relationships. But what I can say is in the relationships where I have cheated, whether it be, emotionally cheating or actually physically cheating, a lot of times it supplements, it gives you the energy to deal with whatever it is that you don't necessarily like in your relationship, right?
Wow.
And it's so unfortunate that it was one relationship that I was in that every time that I wasn't cheating, when I was actually focused on her, that's when I got accused of cheating. When I was actually cheating, it was like, oh man, I don't know what's gotten into you. You're so good. You're so thoughtful. You're so whatever. And it's just like, yo, like I'm acting a fool, And so that's kind of like what led to me being just more honest and letting stuff kind of like blow up or be messy or be whatever it's going to be, and feel that way where you're able to just acknowledge your own truth of whatever it is that you have going on. And I think just more men don't do that. Because again, they wouldn't end up on the floor of bed sheets. They'll say, take I don't really rock with this. We're going to have this type of color. But, a lot of times where we've heard for forever, you can't win an argument with a woman. You can't win a conversation with a woman, And I think when you're in a relationship, it's, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? So it has to be some level of compromise there. And a woman has to be able to hear a man. And I think all too often in conversations that I've had with women, I can tell them where it is that I'm at, what it is that I'm feeling, what it is that I desire. And what I get back in return is you don't really feel that way. When did you like that? Or because of this back in the past, what you're saying isn't actually true. And it's like, yo, I'm here having this conversation with you right now. And in my own thoughts and feelings, you're not even believing them when they're coming out of my mouth in the conversation. So why is it that I'm going to continue to have this conversation with you? And again, you start having that conversation with someone else. You like how that conversation goes. You end up cheating.
And then you're gonna be thinking about him. You're gonna be arguing with her like, man, I would, like that type of vibe is the escape for a lot of people. Being unhappy or frustrated with your spouse is the most common, motivational factor for cheating. But it's other things that people don't really talk about. And like AJ just said, having somebody that you can't talk to, that sounds crazy. Like it's different when you meet and it's the first couple of months or whatnot. But when you actually married or actually have a kid with somebody, and you have to deal with day-to-day issues and solve day-to-day problems, like Dr. Blaylock was saying, like, let's come to the most logical, most cost-effective way of navigating our problems, and if you can get with somebody that's on the same page, you have a better chance of being faithful. Like, that's the difference, like, now between me being faithful now and why I was cheating early on in my marriage. Like, now my wife is way different than she was when we first got married, and so it's easier for me to be faithful, even though I'm in a position where I could smash way more chicks because I got followers. You know what I mean? Like, but the desire's not there. I'm not willing to risk what I have at home for it, and I've experienced being a hoe for a long time, so I ain't going crazy over it.
So my question with that is, why? So the next chapter was lies and deception. But my question is, when you realize that the woman isn't giving you what you need, right? Sure. Are you guys realizing that? Because it seems like there's a lot of men that end up with women. Maybe the women they were attracted to aren't necessarily the women that bring them peace or make them feel like a man, or what you guys are saying you need. How are we ending up in situations where that the woman is a woman that you're going to end up cheating on because she doesn't give you those things? Is that not? Are you not seeing that in the?
You don't know that. Like, most dudes they give me, when I got married, I thought I was gonna be faithful. Like, I didn't. Okay. Like, you don't, like, nobody robbed the bank thinking about how many years in prison they gonna get. Like, you don't cheat. I mean, get in the relationship thinking, well, I ain't gonna say there's some dudes that know they ain't gonna be faithful the whole time, but a lot of dudes go into it genuinely trying to be faithful. But a lot of women don't really put into context what it means when they take the keys to a guy's sex life. Like, a dude that's used to sleeping with 4 or 5 chicks a week, man, it's a lot different sleeping with one woman. You know what I mean? Like, and she might not really be up to it. Like, she might not have had no clue how active the dude's sex life was before she got with him. So those type of conflicts are things you can't really predict, because when you kicking it, most people ain't being 100% transparent about what they doing. And AJ, that's one of the things about the show. I'd like to talk to you about it, like the dynamic of dating in a crowd setting like that, like how it disrupts the normal dating. So though that type of stuff actually really matters, when it comes to who you're gonna end up with long term.
So the thing about it is that, and again, I think women are, and this might be jumping the gun, but I think that women are unaware, right? I feel that a lot of times men enter into the relationship space to get to a point of where, hey, you are an attractive stranger, really. You're an attractive stranger. I use whatever resources, whatever I've learned in the past to make you comfortable enough to be able to have sex with me. And then from that space, there is the possibility of a relationship, of something more being able to take place. And the amount of work that needs to take place for that to happen, a man doesn't mind. A man actually enjoys. And then at some point that falls off the cliff, and then a woman wants to take over and kind of hold the reins to everything and start doing more work than what's really required of her to make that relationship sustained. I always talked about, like, when I seen older couples, like my grandmother and, other people's grandma, like, I went over my grandmother's house. It was always like 10, 11 tasks that my grandfather had, that she had from, like, clean the drains, the roof, the floor, the whatever. And he brought his check home, and all of these things are where they connected, right? But I feel like the work that he was doing made him be able to stand on certain things that he wanted in his relationship. You know, if he came home and it wasn't dinner on the table at 6 p.m., he had a basis to go ahead and feel a way about that. I think a lot of times in situations now and in relationships, the way they're set up, what can the man really demand and why can they demand it? Right. You know, a lot of times we talk about what women want and desire and what a man needs to be because we set the tone and go and, you know, make the relationship happen. But basically, a woman can leave a man at any point and be okay. Like your grandmother didn't have that opportunity to be able to do that. And it was several things that man was doing that made him a fixture there that also gave him the ability to demand things in return. I don't think men are in the space that we can demand things from women anymore.
Dr. Blaylock, I want to ask you this because AJ brings up a good point that I hear constantly. And you know, I would talk to Terry when I was single just about, you know, the conversations I would hear from guys. And a lot of guys would say, you don't need, it doesn't seem like you need a man. And I never understood. And I understood that men really have a need to feel needed or to be, for the one to feel like they're necessary to that woman's life. And that's kind of a little bit what AJ just talked about. And I've heard men say that the woman on the side a lot of times makes them feel needed. So can you speak a little bit to that dynamic? What is that dynamic?
A major thing that happened, especially in the Black community, amongst Black couples, is before 1965, you know, we're staying together. And most Black men prefer Black women. Don't believe the hype. Most Black men prefer Black women. But whenever we introduced the pill and we gave women power over the reproduction process, shortly thereafter, I'm telling you, it's like that's when free love came, because before the pill, women were real careful who they picked. It was all about, you know, more responsibility. But now it's like, oh, well, I can control when I get pregnant. If I get pregnant, that started breaking down a lot of stuff. Now, going back to what the guys were saying early, in psychology, we have what's called assortative mating theory, and it suggests that people date or mate with people that they feel more, how can I put it? A lot of men won't go after who they really, really want. They go after who they think they can get. The woman they really, really want, they think is out of their league. So only a few men, like the high value men that are used to a lot of women being around them and their wealth and power, can cause women to just gravitate towards them. That's different from the brother working at Walmart. He sees Beyonce, but he feels he can only get Macy Gray. You know what I'm saying? So it's just kind of like, that's different. And another thing that women don't bring into understanding is this. We always concentrate on intelligence, like IQ, but we really don't think about EQ, your emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is how you do relationships, how you relate. And most men, sadly, do not emotionally mature until the age of 43.
Wow.
Women start the process at age 10. You allow 20 years for living. So by the time a woman hits 30, 31, she could have a career. She could have her stuff pretty much together if she was focused. Men don't start that process till about the age of 20. You add another 20 years of living. So by the time we hit 42, 43, now we get it. But by that time, a lot of women in their 20s and 30s who've been dating men around their age, most of y'all say, man, I don't know, why won't men just man up and grow up? It's like I'm dating a grown baby. We don't get it till about the age of 43, but by that time, y'all got so much baggage with y'all from choosing the wrong type of dudes that y'all ain't trying to hear some of this stuff. You see what I'm saying? But we do get it. But most men, if you say that I'm a grown-ass man, like, no, you're a grown male. Emotionally, you ain't going to get it, bro, till you about 43, 44, and then it's a change. But by that time, we start to feel all old and stuff, so we want the younger women. We ain't trying to have nobody our age with all them bad dating problems. So it's like, no, I'd rather have the chick that's in her late 20s, early 30s come to the table with something new. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the older you get, the harder it gets to settle down.
You could be set in your ways, but it could open you up for companionship. But I like you said something earlier about the pill and pregnancy and things of that nature. So you had two things that kind of happen, right? You know, You go back to like Dr. Mututu or Jesse Jackson when he ran on the platform of, you know, because Black people were supposed to be, by this year, we were supposed to be like the majority, but 13.6 million abortions in the Black community happen like almost every year. And so when you talk about the pill, when you talk about birth control, I get it, but still at the same token, 70% of the pregnancies that happen in the Black community happen outside of marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Very few people.
I have a question. I just have a question on that for all of you guys, because I've wondered this. We talk about women having control over birth control and things like that. Do you all, as men, as 3 Black men, feel that if a woman is pregnant, you should be involved in the conversation if that child, if she decides to have an abortion? Do you think a man has a right to say, I don't want my child aborted, or I do agree with that? Do you all feel like a man, we're just speaking freely because they have a right? I think they have a right to say what they feel.
But you have a right to express your opinion. But that's one of the things that you just know as a man is ultimately going to be her decision.
But do you think that you should have an opinion?
Yeah, you can voice your opinion. I mean, I feel like anybody that you close enough to be having raw sex with, you should be able to have a conversation with. So if we are to the point where we're dealing with a pregnancy, I should be able to express what I think about it, what I'm leaning towards and whatnot. Now, ultimately, it's her body. She's going to make the decision. I think most guys come to terms with that pretty early.
Yeah. I mean, it's unfair to a lot of guys that I used to talk to when I used to deal with them one-on-one. And it's like, okay, if I want to have the child, I'm happy about it, but she doesn't. Oh, well, I'm going to have it in, I'm not going to have a baby. I have my career, whatever. If I don't want the baby, I'm like, look, I don't want it. Well, you should have thought about that before I got pregnant. Oh, well, and I'm going to put you on child support. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of like, yeah, we should have a conversation, but it's like this. If we sit down and we decide, if you decide to have it and I decide that I don't want it, it's kind of like, that's a different kind of conversation, because then it's like, okay, well, what are we going to do about the kid? I don't want it, but if you go through, you're going to make me participate, and that makes a lot of people resentful. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think that we should be able to have the conversation, but a lot of women who get pregnant and they want to have it, they're like, well, you should have thought about it before you did it. And it's kind of like, well, you should have. But
if you're making money, it's a win. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you get in the bag, getting knocked up. What's her name? Brittany Reiner, that just knocked up the NBA player. Man, we know the hustle. You know what it is. But it's up to men to be more careful with what they do. Like I was just saying earlier, like the strategic cheater. Like, you could be strategic bachelor. I know when I was single, I was more into oral sex to limit my possibility of getting a chick pregnant. I much rather, I had buddies, we had doctors, we exchanging services, smoking blunts, having great conversation. That limited my chances of getting chicks pregnant. But that was me being a nerd and applying logic to my whole behavior. A lot of people don't. I think they just act off impulse.
I don't know. So that's a tough one for me, right? Because I'm still of the space of, you shouldn't have sex with a woman that you couldn't see yourself having a child with. And then even also on top of that, you should be, having some level of contraceptive. And maybe I'm like even more like crazy than that. Like, I've never, kind of more along the line of what Terry's talking about, but even with the condom, like I've never finished that way. You know what I'm saying? I'm not shooting the club up at all. Because that's how kids happen. Even when using the contraceptive, that's not we've been finished this some type of other way. And with me not being in a committed relationship or married, like, that's really the only way I want to have children is if I'm married, and while I can still kind of dictate that, like, that's kind of the standard that I hold.
Yeah. I think that's another thing that can be a conversation in itself is that's a huge thing. But I appreciate you guys' candor with that. One of the questions, there's a lot of questions coming in. It's good conversation. Is a lot of times we see that guys have a proclivity towards whores. Just saying it. Like, if you guys like strippers, why won't you? If you want strippers, why won't you just marry them? If you want, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with strippers at all. Please don't hit me on the channel saying Christal's talking about strippers. No, but I'm saying if you want women that are very sexually forward, then why
men want those type of women to have fun with? That's who they want around when they on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That's not who they want to build a family or build a life.
Is that really still true now, though?
So again, all right. So those are two different things, right? A stripper, I really don't want to go ahead and like someone that's in the sex industry or even adult entertainment or things of that nature, and that's adjacent to it. I don't want to be in a relationship with them, and I don't want to be in an intimate space with them. Like, for me, you have too many people that are attached to you. It's too much energy that's around you. You know what I'm saying? For me. However, though, do I think and want a woman to have a level of proficiency at things sexually? Yes, I do. That is not a thing, you know what I'm saying, that is isolated or exclusive to strippers and sex workers. You know, like, so I feel like is us as men are always really graded on how we're performing sexually, and it's a lot of pressure to perform well in that sexual arena. A lot of times women kind of, you know, they're able to, well, it was you. You know what I'm saying? Because this always worked. It is like, well, you didn't do what it is that you needed to. No, ma'am, you got muscles and stuff. It's a bunch of stuff that you need to know kind of how to do that you just like not knowing how to do. And it's like that strippers kind of know how to do. And I think if that's what it is, but I think that's more so about a man feeling the things that he desires and the things that he's wanting, and being able to have an open conversation with him, an open conversation about it. And, you know, classes and things exist. Hey, or, you know, I think a lot of times, you know, like pornographic videos and things of that nature aren't just for self-pleasure. They can definitely be used as teaching tools.
Education.
Like, oh, hey, look, you see this right here? This is what I'm talking about, you know, so.
I am really trying, guys. I feel like I'm doing good. I'm being quiet.
I said that the nicest, most.
I did, but you don't have to, because the thing about it, I have to say this. You guys are asking where David is. We're not sure, and I'm okay. I think the conversation is full, so maybe we'll have him another time. But you know, when we talk about sex, I think that's one area where women. I remember when I first moved here, I was married, and there was a class on it's called a head doctor class, and women were signing up, and women are trying to figure out how to please men. They're doing all, and men are not taking these classes. There are no classes for men. I just want to say, guys, on the behalf of, this is all I'm going to say today, that you know, we talk about the fact that women may not be doing certain things. Trust me. If we have a conversation with women, because I do this all the time.
David just texted me. He said he's backstage.
Oh, you know what? He is. I didn't even. You know what? Thank you, AJ. Let me try to bring him. Let's bring. There he is. Hey, David.
Y'all trying to leave me out?
No, we were 8 p.m. Eastern. We're here for an hour talking, David.
I know. Let me get a comment again. I'm gonna let y'all continue. Christal, how are you, sweetheart?
I'm good.
Late Terry, I've seen some posts of yours. I just want to say, man, hey, Mama say give people their roses while they're alive. You're doing your thing. Dr. Blaylock, I commend you, brother. I've seen your work as well. AJ, I love you. All right. I just wanted to just give.
No, David, don't leave. People have been asking, where are you? So if you can stay a few minutes, that would be good. We're not going to be on very much longer.
I'm here.
But we definitely would love to have your input. But I got to say, guys, on behalf of women, men are, when you ask most women about their sexual performance, they all say, well, I don't get any complaints. And,
when do men complain about sex? It's too hard to come by in most cases for men.
Well, whether that's the case or not, women are complaining to each other, but we've been groomed not to complain to you all. So maybe everybody, but I do know that women are at least trying. Men are not even trying. Men are not even trying, guys. God, I'm not even trying.
Look, if you're a woman and you're having bad sex, I'm gonna put the blame squarely at your feet. Reason being is this. Reason I'm saying is, y'all let too many guys go on thinking that they pleasing you.
That's true.
And like with the screaming, with faking the orgasm and stuff. So he's thinking he's daddy long stroke, and then y'all break up. He's taking that to the next woman.
He is, but we're talking about the fact that women have been groomed to these men.
I mean, I get it. I really get it. But at some point, you got to take responsibility for the bad sex. Like, yo, I'm sorry. This ain't really working. I know it's called eating the coochie, but you can't really bite a piece off and swallow it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you do it too hard. You got to be able to say that stuff. Ooh. I mean, really, because you don't want to hurt his feelings. It's like, nah, bruh, you got to speak up for yourself. And we know that most men's egos are the most fragile thing on the planet. We know that. But still, you got to be able to speak to that man that you choose in a language that he will understand to accept your right.
Well, that's a whole nother issue. Women, we do need to stop lying. But I want to ask you guys. I'm going to ask David, since he just joined the conversation. We're talking about cheating and what causes infidelity and things like that. And I want to, you missed some of the conversation, but I want to ask you, because we talk about men so often when it comes to this. What is your definition of infidelity? Does that happen after marriage? Does that happen in dating? We obviously saw you and AJ both were on Ready to Love. And that was one of the things that came up. If I'm dating multiple women, how am I cheating on, or how is another woman angry at me because I'm seeing somebody else? So what's your perspective on the definition of cheating?
Yeah. So first thing is, I think the first thing we need to address is the expectation. So if you're expecting something of me or for me to be something in the relationship, and we never address that, then I'm going to miss the mark on whatever you thought I was. So let's first establish who I am to you and who you are to me. So let's say we establish that. We have a commitment. I think now cheating can be emotionally, it can be physical, it could be even, it all depends on how you communicate with your partner. It could even be flirting. You know what I'm saying? Because certain things can open the door to other things. So whatever that communication is between you and your partner, that should be talked about. That way you don't miss expectations.
Right.
Because
it can't be an unspoken rule or some,
Yeah. But if I can I drill down just to me for a second, right? So personally for me, when I'm committed to someone, anything that is outside, I mean, at the end of the day, man, the heart, right? The heart is, I'm biblical at times, so I'm not going to go too far, but the heart is deceitfully wicked. Who knows it? Nobody but God, right? You have to almost ask yourself, what is my intentions when I have these conversations with somebody at work? Let's say you with her, right? And she having conversations at work. Let's say she's, whatever it is, she has to be honest within herself. Am I right in this? Is my integrity in place with this? Regardless if he's here around me or not. Is my integrity, is my character in the right fashion in terms of representing him, respecting him. And sometimes I say honoring, because honoring doesn't have to be attached to marriage. Honor is just honor. Like, I just love you like that. I care for you like that. I put you on a pedestal. And sometimes we don't put the people we with on a pedestal enough because we're afraid what our friends might say. You honor him, man, that's my guy. That's my woman. Of course I honor her. You know? So anyway, just to close it out with this, for me personally, I think cheating is one, you know, it has a lack of integrity. It has a lack of character. And I think at the end of the day, your conscience even tells you this ain't right.
I agree. I think that happens it kind of like we were talking earlier about conversations and things kind of slide in that way. But sometimes a person may need that conversation. And instead of saying, you know what, this feels good, but it's not right, and it's going to lead to something else, it keeps going. Before we go, I know we don't have very much. We got about 10 more minutes. I want to ask you guys about the social media, because when we were coming up, most of us, you know, between the 30s, mid 30s to mid 40s, social media wasn't a part. Now we have social media, and it seems like no one is able to stay faithful because they have too many opportunities to interact with the opposite sex without being seen. So what do you think social media has added? And do you think it's a problem if your significant other is having Facebook or Instagram conversations with people? Is that a problem? Is that, well, you know what? I'm going to let David start with that because we saw him talk about that on the show. So I just realized, you know what? Ironically, on the show, but that is a big issue. Like, it's social media causes, as a publicist, I can't tell you how many women I know here in Atlanta that would show me screenshots of guys that were married that were propositioning them. And I'm like, he should know that you're going to screenshot that. And that's how a lot of people get caught. But it seems to be the forbidden fruit that no one can resist. David, I'll let you go first, and then I'll go to AJ, and then Dr. Blaylock and Terry.
Let me just say, social media, man, look, if you don't get a handle on it, it will get a handle on you, on your relationships, on you. It's so much that can affect that. I mean, and that goes to boundaries, right? Like, what do we want to let affect us? I see couples sometimes where the female will post a certain picture, right? And is it for his eyes or is it for everybody's eyes? Again, the question goes to, what were you trying to accomplish with this? We need to have those real conversations, because sometimes we get so used to doing certain things within other relationships. And then when you finally get a real good relationship where that person genuinely cares about you, he loves you, and he don't want that body to be for nobody but him, then you start to have a different conversation.
They'll call it insecure.
You know, and then they'll call it insecure when it has nothing to do with insecurities. Yeah. It's so quick. I mean, people are so quick to define what insecurity is, when it really comes down to my individuality and me being secure within myself to say, you know what, I'm just not comfortable with that, right? And I can be uncomfortable with my mate about certain things, and then she can love me enough to correct those things, and me vice versa.
They just have to be reasonable. They just have to be within reason. They have to be communicated in a respectful way. You're right, because that's the part, you know, when you hear things like, I'm never settling, or never settle, sis, and all this type of stuff. Well, it's like, hold on. That's just that means you come into an agreement on what's acceptable. Like David just said, the boundaries. If you can work with your partner to come up with boundaries that y'all both agree to, then you have a much better chance of living up to them. You know what I mean? Like, so
I want to touch on something, because this is so important, y'all. And I hope you don't miss the message. Please hear me. And hear me with a ear to say, you know what, forget what I thought I knew. Let me just hear you. It is not controlling for me to have a conversation with somebody that I love and that I'm trusting to be safe with. If I tell them that I'm uncomfortable with something, now I leave it up to them to make a decision if they can continue with it or not. It does not make me controlling. I'm telling you what I'm uncomfortable with. Just because everybody's doing whatever in their relationships don't mean I got to ride with everybody and what they doing. I'm trying to build something with you. And if we can't build together, then maybe me and you don't work. It's okay if me and you don't work. We can move on and be okay.
No, I feel that. I think that we're at a place where no one can say anything without people trying to put labels and say that's wrong. If a man says I don't feel comfortable with my wife or my girlfriend, that I'm in a committed relationship wearing this, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That's a conversation. And like Terry said earlier, you should feel comfortable if you're laying down with someone and even if you're just in an intimate relationship, you should feel comfortable telling them how you feel. I think that's how we start to create those safe spaces. Men have to feel comfortable being able to say, that doesn't make me feel good. My pastor would say, that makes me feel uncomfortable. That makes me feel unsafe when you do that. And the wife would be like, whoa, that sounds dramatic. But it really is. We need to be used to men being able to be honest with us when they don't feel good about something. AJ, what do you think about social media?
So, social media is a mixed bag. Social media is not all bad. I think we could go ahead and go back and touch on a lot of things that we already touched on and relate them to social media. I think Terry talked about the couple social media, and then you end up in that space of trying to present the perfect relationship and not really have what truly fulfills either partner, because now you're so far about putting this image up. And you used to only have to put the image up for your friends, for the people that were close around you. But to try to have to carry an image on for seemingly the world potentially is a whole different animal, is a whole different beast. But if you go back just to the pursuit of how relationships are and then the prospect of cheating, if going back to what I said earlier about men wanting to have the most attractive woman that they've had their access to, well, what was that? Men kind of, and think Terry talked about it, the cheerleader in the school, the most popular woman in the school, the prom queen. That was something that a guy could hang their hat on and say, you heard your grandfather or older men say, man, she was the prettiest woman that I had ever seen. She was the prettiest woman in the 10-mile radius that he was with. You think back to scenes of like Car Wash, where he was on that phone, that pay phone waiting, and like that was the prettiest woman that he saw. That was the prettiest woman he had access to. And social media is kind of taking that away, right? Because it's always a prettier woman. But I don't think that that's bad, right? Because then it says, all right, well, if all of these attractive people are single, not in relationships that's long lasting, you can actually get in touch and be in relationships or have intimate interactions with women that you've seen on social media in this way that have large followings and leave out of those situations unfulfilled. You say, well, what is it truly that I'm looking for in a relationship? And I think it forces you to start going to the things that truly matters a bit faster. So it can hopefully not leave a brother waiting until they're 43 to see that emotional piece that they need to get to figure out what their mate needs to provide, more than just a physical appearance and sexual acts.
Can we be faithful with social media? Does social media make it hard to be faithful?
No. I'll let Dre go for
no. Well, two things about social media. Social media gives everyone a platform without responsibility. You know what I'm saying? You can say anything you want to. You have an opinion, but you don't have to. You're not responsible for any of that stuff. And number two, social media has tricked many people into thinking that they have way more options available to them than real. You swipe right, but swiping right might not be right next door. So if you get on my nerves and I get on social media, I'm finding somebody way in Texas and I'm here in North Carolina talking like, yeah, that's my chick. It's like, no, I'm not moving. You ain't moving. It's fake. It's fake. It's not real. You know what I mean? So it causes people not to concentrate on the reality of the situation that they have there, and it provides an out without responsibility.
I like that. That's good. That's good. Terry, does social media make it hard to be faithful? With all your followers?
No, because I understand it. You talked about it earlier. We live in a screenshot world. So I already know if I did try to slide in some chick's DMs, it's gonna be way worse because I'm giving relationship advice. So I'm not finna give y'all the ability to Derek Jackson me. You know what I mean? Like, y'all not finna scandalize me and be, you know what I'm saying? Like, y'all not finna be YouTubing talking about how I humiliated my wife, etc. That goes back to me talking about my hoe days. Like, the fact that I was a hoe really prepared me to be able to resist temptation with women, especially now that I'm, I make a decent amount of money, etc. It also, but on the other hand, it creates more opportunities. So if you are actively trying to cheat, then you have a lot more ability to do it because you can search through people that are connected to you through mutual friends and all these other type of things. And just from a male perspective, men have so much ability to gather information about women before they shoot their shot that I think that I would be so much more efficient at smashing chicks today. You know what I mean?
They get you with that smashing chicks, Terry. That is your thing.
I'm trying not to say it.
That is your thing. But I got to ask everybody one last question, and then we'll make sure people know where to get the book and follow everybody on social media. Last question for tonight. What have you learned? What did you learn about relationships with women that the 18 to 20-year-old version of yourself had no clue of? I'm going to start with Dr. Blaylock. What do you know about relationships with women that you did not know when you were 18 or 20?
Well, I didn't know that women had imaginary action figures of their, in their mind that they wanted me to be. I didn't know that they wouldn't necessarily accept me for who I was, that they had this prototype in their mind that had been programmed maybe through upbringing, through books, through TV and stuff. And I had to be that person for them to even consider me. You know what I mean? I didn't know that. So once I learned that, I know how to combat that now. But I had no idea that women would choose something that they want over something that might be better for them in the long run.
How do you combat that?
I mean, because you kind of set it up, you can listen to the prototype. Terry talks about it a lot on his page. I mean, women have a prototype of this ideal guy. You can just read some of the profiles. I'm all over dating sites, and women describe this particular man. And it's just kind of like, you got to bring to the reality, like, look, okay, if your method was working, the way that you're thinking, the way that you date, is working. Do you have this dude, or have you met that dude? No, but you still, instead of changing your dating strategies and how you approach men, you still would say, and I'll keep it short, I had 200 women in a seminar one time, and I broke them up into groups of 20. I had them write down just the cons, because if you really like something, you're not going to have a problem with it. I'm like, write down the top 10 things that your last 3 boyfriends did that got on your nerves, compile that list and give it to me. So 200 women gave me this list of about 10 things that all of them experienced with men. And I said, well, what should you do about this list? The first thing they said, well, men need to, and all of y'all have experienced these 10 things with most men. And instead of saying, you know what, maybe I ought to reevaluate this situation and how I'm approaching it, y'all will still say, well, real men would do this. And so the way I learned to combat it is, I know what that list is, and I present truth. I don't present falsehoods, because I can continue in truth. I can't continue to play with you long term.
I got you. That's why we're having this forum, so women can hear. We can be quiet in here. I've tried to be quiet all night. AJ, what do you know about relationships with women that you did not know when you were younger?
That they're not all happy endings. That relationships end, that relationships have up and downs and ebbs and flows. I think when I was in high school, I thought you said 18, 19, 20, you find a woman, you fall in love, and then that's it. Y'all have kids, and then, you off into the sunset, and then you get older and you start to actually achieve that in a relationship, and you feel like, oh man, this is a little bit more difficult. And you hear people always say, well, I never thought that love would be this hard. And then you come to the conclusion of saying that, hey, love is not even enough, because I think in these relationships and situations where people are cheating on each other, it's not really, no one ever feels like, oh, he doesn't love me or she doesn't love me. I think that those are the things that are apparent. Now they could feel like they aren't respected. They could feel like they aren't appreciated, but loved, they could see where that takes place. But it doesn't have any bearing on whether or not your relationship is successful or not. I didn't know that younger.
David, what did you learn? What have you learned about relationships with women that you did not know 20 years ago?
Man, first off, Christal, that's a good question, right? Even if I'm 45 today, even if I can go back and tell myself at 18, I learned, and it sounds simplistic, but it's so important, how important communication and vulnerability is. I think at 18, what dude is trying to be vulnerable with a female? We putting our best foot forward. We trying to be the superhero. We putting on the cape. We ran, you're not, last thing you're trying to be is vulnerable. And communication, to be able to tell somebody your deficiencies, your weaknesses, where you lack, where you want to grow, and not them take that information and use it against you, but to say, I love you through it. At 45 today, maturity is what can really get a relationship through. If you're able to really grasp, and we have this exchange, both with vulnerability and communication.
So that goes to kudos to Dr. Blaylock that said basically men are emotionally mature at 43. David is 2 years past that. Happy belated birthday. And so he is in a good space. Terry, last question. Obviously you knew everything about women because you were smashing all the chicks.
Well, see, I didn't know everything. I knew enough to get women to trust me enough or like me enough to have sex. So when I was just thinking about this question, when I was in my whole phase in my younger days, I was focused on building rapport with women, putting myself in position to consistently meet attractive women, etc. So it was kind of like a funnel system. But now what I've learned now that I'm older and with my platform, I learned what kills relationships. And so my advice or my platform is really structured from hey, this is what you shouldn't do type of aspect. These are the things that create problems. These are the things that are giving y'all trouble. So if you can just decrease or eliminate these things, you're going to be better off. And so my perspective on dating or whatnot has just been has been more focused on what not to do. All my past experience, I know what can throw your marriage in chaos. I know what can have you thinking of whether your wife is going to leave you or not. And I know what it's like when you ain't tripping about your girl grabbing your phone. Like, I've been on both sides of the spectrum. So I've learned what to avoid and what to, to make things work and last in a relationship.
Let people know where they can get a copy of the book. We went through the topics of most of the chapters, but let people know where, because I'm sure women want to know. This has been a good conversation, but it's interesting to hear men's perspectives on cheating because it's a lot different. I'm going to be honest, when I was married for 11 years and when my ex-husband cheated on me, I thought it meant he did not love me. I thought it meant there was something wrong with me. That's the first thing I thought. Maybe he never loved me and there was something wrong with me, and it caused me to have a lot of self-esteem issues. And I don't know that men really understand how we see it as opposed to how you all see it. So that's why I wanted to have forums like this so we can hear the other side. I know what women think. The first thing you think is the woman prettier? Is she better? Does he not want me? Does he want her? We don't think of it in the same terms of he's just adding to. I'm like, it's either her or me. I'm not thinking you're trying to add. And I see a lot of women that when their man cheats on them, it destroys their self-esteem. It destroyed mine. It literally destroyed my entire self-esteem. And so I understood that it had nothing to do with who I was. Yes, I wasn't perfect, but and I could get better on those things and want to improve on those things. But honestly, it didn't mean that I wasn't a beautiful. It didn't mean that he didn't see me that way. But at first, in my head, probably for 2 or 3 years, I walked around thinking I'm not attractive. He never loved me, and I don't want other women to feel like that. So share with us, Terry, how can women get the book? How can people get the book?
The book is available on Amazon through paperback and Kindle. It's called Forensics of Cheating. It was co-written by myself and Dr. Blaylock. It touches on the questions and the thought processes that a person that is contemplating cheating will go through, and it also talks about the things that'll make a person stay faithful as well. So I think it's a real short read. It's real, quick and to the point. But I think it's really beneficial. Anything you wanted to add, Dre?
No, I think you hit it on the head. Get the stuff a copy. We really kind of went in on it, and we tried to be. I mean, no one can create an exhaustive text on it, but we did the best that we could based upon the questions that we were getting, and we just put the work in. So it's a good read.
Well, I appreciate the two of you coming, Terry. As always, we always have a good time. We'll definitely have to do this again. I want to thank AJ and David. AJ, we had a great conversation before. Your input tonight has been invaluable, so I appreciate that. David, I thank you so much for joining. I'm glad we didn't miss you totally, and your input tonight was great as well. I think it's important that we hear different sides of different things, because we're not all a monolith. We have a lot of different thoughts and feelings. So I want to make sure that we try to represent as many different perspectives as possible. The ladies are enjoying both of you guys' hats. I see that's the flavor of tonight. They're ready to.
I don't know how me and David are always on the same page. It looked like we could just switch hats and it'll still work.
Yeah, it looks like you guys both the fits are kind of, the hats are dope. That's the grown ass man look. So I appreciate both of you guys joining tonight, and thank you guys all. I mean, the comments have been continuous. Terry and I are going to do these once a month and just hit on different topics with men and women. I just wanted to make sure we had men tonight, and I tried to be quiet.
You did a good job.
Facial expressions was killing me.
Yeah, yeah. But I had facial expressions too, but it was funny looking at your face a lot of the times. I was looking like her. It's killing her to stay quiet over there. Like
It was because y'all said some stuff that was really off the wall that I know women would have wanted to respond to, but I did good and stayed quiet. But I appreciate this entire channel is built because I feel like everybody deserves love, and we all need to understand each other so that we can be open to that. So my intent is always just to educate people and let people hear, so we can be open, and so we all can find the love that we all desire, that Terry has had for 17 years. So.
Oh, congrats, Terry.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate it. You all enjoy the rest of your week and your weekend, and we'll be back. I will be back on Monday for Reality Check, and we will be back. We'll let you guys know when we'll do this again next month with different panelists and different topics, but it's always going to be about relationships. So I appreciate everybody tuning in.
Thank you, Chris.
Good night, everybody.
Later, y'all. Really enjoyed it.
Good night, everybody.
All right.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm removing people and adding them back, unfortunately. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. Tonight was great. We will definitely be back on Monday for another reality check. And again, we'll do this panel again next month, because there's definitely a lot of things that we're going to have some women in to have my back next time. I'll see you guys on Monday for Reality Check.